Okay, hello everybody. Welcome to our webinar tonight. I hope all of you can hear me. I have a very bright background, but you can kind of see me here. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. Tonight's webinar, we have our career speaker, Matt Coleman. He's in the room right now, and our teacher presenters, Sara and Michele, who are also here. And it's great to see all of you. So a few announcements first, then our career speaker, teacher presenters, and wrap up. Yeah, so for announcements, I wanted to remind you guys again that you can use Adobe Connect to make appointments to talk to other schools. I know some teachers are having problems using Skype in their classrooms, so just know that you can always use Adobe Connect for this. And it takes very little on my part. I just have to log in, so it's not a big deal to use it. And I also want to remind you of discussion boards and blogs. We have some discussion boards going on the SCRC page, including one about teaching about weather and climate. We would love your input on that. And I will send out a link to the discussion board in in the webinar archival email. So yeah, we have some discussions happening on discussion boards, and it'd be great to see you guys on there. Then we have demographic survey. Most people have taken it. If you have not yet taken it, please do that. It should take you about 2 minutes or less. You can do it on an iPad or an iPhone. It's very fast. And that link for that is listed in the web links above the chat window. And then on November 1st, we have our first status report opening. That is available from November 1st to November 30th. And it is just an update on how things are going, what you may need, what's going well, so forth. So it's asking you just a general update. And I will remind you to complete those as time goes on in November, but please go ahead and do that as soon as you get the email. And if you have not yet completed your project or started your project even, that's fine, just say that in there. And then we have our next SCRC IOP. And for October, it's still the climate and land cover, and also phenology and climate. And for November, I didn't put this on there, but we have phenology and climate continuing on. And I know some of you have done green down data. For those that haven't, it's a really easy one to do. It's fun for students. So if you have any questions about it, just let me know or post in the discussion forums about it. Okay, so any questions so far? Okay, so I'm going to switch over to Matt here. I need to call him. So just 1 second, may I call him?
Your call cannot be.
I'm sorry, 1 second, please.
Your call cannot be completed.
Excellent.
Okay, can everybody hear Matt?
Hey everyone, happy to be here. Hope you all can hear me just fine.
Okay, good.
All right, if we're ready, I'm happy to jump right in.
We are ready.
Sounds good. So thank you to Julie and to Sara Tessendorf as well for both of them telling me about this cool opportunity to talk with you all about a STEM field that I would say is probably a little off the beaten path, but I hope this will be a good presentation for you, and I look forward to explaining more about what I do on a day-to-day basis with my STEM education. I work in the field of weather risk management, and my day-to-day job is an interesting overlap of meteorology and finance. I put this cartoon on here because I think it explains a bit about what we do in a pretty humorous way. In this particular situation, you have a lemonade stand owner who can sell lemonade for very high prices because of where he's located in the hot desert. But if you take the same lemonade stand owner and put him in Alaska in the middle of the winter, you're probably going to have to charge a lot less for that lemonade because of the prevailing weather where his lemonade stand is set up. And what I do on a day-to-day basis is analyze temperature trends and understand how much to charge for weather insurance. We structure insurance products that help a variety of industries, municipalities better manage their earnings and costs that fluctuate as a result of weather variation. Weather risk management, it's a relatively new field compared to some of the other fields that are out there. There are a handful of companies and a handful of people within those companies that actually operate in this space, and a lot of them do have backgrounds in STEM, some of them weather, some not, and also they obviously have a business and risk management background. These pictures here, they just help tell the story of different types of industries, sectors of the economy that are impacted by weather. And it's, you know, when you think about it, it actually becomes rather intuitive that the weather can impact revenues and costs of so many different types of industries. You have traditional utilities who buy and sell power, natural gas, and oil, and the amount that they can sell, the price tag they can put on those commodities depends on the prevailing weather. If you have a warm winter, then there's going to be less demand for heating during that winter, and the utility would sell less power in the end. So they may come to someone like us in order to structure an insurance product that will pay them if that happens. You can have a tennis event like the U.S. Open. If there's rain and an event gets canceled, then there's less sales of food, of different types of apparel and clothing. You can think of a construction site that may get delayed due to rain or snow, and those delays could then turn into budget overruns and cause a development company, a construction company to miss their overall earnings targets. You can think of farmers, governments who are susceptible to weather risks and how that can impact crops, much like we've seen this summer in the U.S. If you have a drought, that can have drastic implications for the amount of crops sold by a farmer or municipality, as well as the prices of commodities around the globe. You can think of a retail company like Abercrombie and such a company trying to decide when to put out their winter or summer clothing line. And that can depend a lot on the weather and the shoulder season in the spring and fall, whether or not that's conducive to putting out those winter clothes, for example. You can think of a wind development company that's putting up wind turbines, and that turbine company may not be able to get a loan from a bank. The bank is worried about whether or not it'll be windy enough to generate enough power for the developer to pay back the bank for the loan. So a bank may require a development company to actually purchase insurance that guarantees that the bank in the end will get paid regardless of whether or not the wind blows. And of course, there are snow implications, blizzard implications during the winter in different locations. And you can think of a government who may have to pay out more money to clear snow the more it snows, or you can think of the flip side of a snow plow company that makes more money the more it snows and loses money the less it snows. So all of these are different situations where I'm using my scientific background to understand underlying weather risks, and then using that quantitative expertise to structure an insurance product for an end user. And so, you know, given that I'm in an overlapping field of sorts, definitely have an overlapping and kind of roundabout education as well. I studied chemistry and environmental sciences at the University of Virginia. And while I was there, I linked up with a professor who served as a mentor to me, who told me about research research careers, graduate schools, as well as internship opportunities, which led me to the SOARS program with UCAR. And while I was in SOARS, by the final summer that I participated in that program, I learned that I didn't want to be a research scientist. I wanted to be more on the applied side, helping solve financial and business problems with my weather background. And when I was working on that research, I actually developed it further into my master's thesis when I was at Penn State, when I was studying meteorology and weather risk management. I went out into the workforce, and then after about 4 years, I decided to come back and round out my education and get an MBA in finance, again from the University of Virginia at the Darden School of Business. And then delving into my work experience over the years, I definitely include SOARS in that because I was learning research skills as a research scientist, how to think critically and answer questions, and just as importantly, learning how to communicate and put together technical papers. And the central question that I was trying to answer for my thesis in my final summer at SOARS was whether or not seasonal hurricane forecasts are valuable to the insurance industry and can help a decision maker make economic decisions more precisely with more information in the form of a weather forecast. When I finished my graduate degree, I worked at a hedge fund in Chicago called Citadel. And Citadel is essentially a money manager where people will invest their dollars in Citadel hoping to make a better return through them than they could through their traditional stock, bond investing, mutual fund investing. While I was there, my central goal, I worked on a weather team there. There were, at any given time, 3 to 4 of us. We were helping the firm answer questions like how does weather impact investing in these different asset classes such as energy, insurance, and equities. Think of trading a stock like Abercrombie, like we mentioned earlier. Some of the inputs that go into deciding whether to buy and sell those stocks are how the weather impacts those businesses. When I was in business school, I did a summer internship at the CSX train railroad company in Jacksonville, Florida. And my primary goal was working there in energy efficiency. And the overarching theme of the program that I was taking part in was to help companies better prepare and manage long-term climate change risk. So at Citadel, and what I do now is looking more shorter-term, year-to-year weather risk. But at CSX, I was helping a large Fortune 1000 company understand its longer-term climate change risk. And what I was doing was helping them identify potential investments to increase energy efficiency at their rail yards. And that would be looking at retrofitting their old light fixtures, their air compressors used for repairs of all the trains and cars, better heating air conditioning units. And I was helping them prioritize and quantify the economic benefit of these investments that would allow the firm to save money over time. And finally, as I explained earlier, I'm now working at a company called Michele. Our headquarters is in Bermuda, and I work at the satellite office in the San Francisco Bay Area. And our overall goal in the part of the business that I work in is to structure these weather insurance products. And we put a delineation between catastrophic weather risk, such as hurricanes, earthquakes, where there's a developed market for that space and providing those types of insurance products for those types of events. I work in a smaller part of our business that's looking at these day-to-day weather fluctuations, like I mentioned earlier, wind, rain, temperature, and helping people manage earnings volatility due to the higher frequency, lower severity type of weather events. And Michele, like Citadel, is a money manager. We're a hedge fund where investors, large pension funds, invest in us because our performance is completely uncorrelated and does not follow the performance of the broader stock market. I thought it'd be useful just to give kind of a day in the life of what I do, to give you a sense of how all these different education and professional experience backgrounds come together in a typical day at work. I live in the city and commute, do have a reverse commute, so I hop on the ferry at 6:30 in the morning. And then when I get to work, the first thing I do is get on the phone with our Bermuda-based headquarters and talk to my research partner and make sure we have our day all set, make sure our projects are moving forward as we expect. Then I may spend the next half hour looking at the latest daily, monthly, seasonal weather forecasts and understanding how any movements in those forecasts could potentially impact the products that we've sold and our internal risk management to the different weather events that could cause us to pay out on these insurance contracts. Then I may spend a couple hours actually delving into an actual analysis to structure a project, or excuse me, an insurance product, where I'm looking at different trends in temperature data, for example. And then I may have, after working for a bit, I may have some questions for our insurance broker that brought us this particular deal, who's standing between us and the end user. And I'd have a list of questions where I may ask him or her to better understand what exactly the client's looking for and making sure that we're transparent and clear on the type of product that we are developing. Then during lunch, I may have a weekly portfolio meeting where our internal team discusses the performance of our deals to date, the amount of money we expect to make on those deals going forward in the future, and just overall business development, making sure we are doing everything we can to close as many deals as possible to continue to grow the overall weather risk management space and increase the pie and the amount of risk-taking that can be beneficial to a much wider audience. And then I may go back to my research from earlier in the day and finish up the pricing and analysis of the structure. Once I'm done with that, shift gears a bit, look at any new trades or deals that we've completed recently, make sure they're entered properly in our deal management system so that we can track all our deals for accounting purposes. And I may end the day by reading a research paper on a topic like water shortages in the U.S. and what that can mean for future water markets and water prices, thinking about ways that we can use broader academic research to stay on the cutting edge of what scientists are thinking about and what that can mean for our marketplace. At the end of the day, I'll hop on the ferry and head back home. And for my last slide, this is how, my personal opinion on how all of this has kind of pulled together for me. I think about having a strong interest in the STEM fields ever since I was in elementary school, always interested in math and science and technology. It wasn't until later in college and graduate school when I started thinking about how I could combine a STEM background with some other aspect of the economy or some other service. And I listed some here, and that was one of my big takeaways. Was at the end of the day, I ended up creating a field, creating a job description for myself based on my personal interests. In my case, it happened to be weather and finance, but I think if someone has a strong interest in STEM fields, they can go into research, they can stay exclusively in those fields, they can go interdisciplinary and think about other industries where they would like to apply that education. With that, I'm happy to answer any questions, and I hope this was useful and that gives you a sense of how I took a slightly different path, roundabout way to get to where I am now, into a field that's pretty unique. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. Are there any questions? Matt, can you see the chat window?
I can.
Okay, so you have a question from Chris there.
How is the work you do connected to the crop insurance purchased by farmers? Is there a connection to agriculture? I can say that the work that we did have some risk we did sustain losses in our firm due to the drought in the U.S. this year. And that was mainly through a partnership that we have with a technology company that sells weather insurance to farmers. And the idea is that this particular company is using the whole concept of big data to ingest layers and layers of weather data to get a good idea of how risky it is for drought or rain or heat or cold to occur across the U.S. in very fine geographic regions on the scale of a farm, an individual farm. That space that we operated in, it was actually, that product served as a supplement to traditional crop insurance. So while there are many insurance companies out there who sell crop insurance directly, alongside the federal government, the product that we sold, it technically was tangential to that and was a stopgap to help fill the hole where crop insurance stops and remaining losses start again. But yeah, the field that I work in, we are very much a part of this whole fiasco, if you will, going on this summer where we had this significant drought, and that did impact our business as well as the business of many competitors, as one would expect.
Are there any other questions? Well, Matt, thank you again very much. Really appreciate doing this tonight.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to do it. And if anyone has any other questions, feel free to contact me, email me. I'm happy to talk some more.
Okay, well, I am going to end this call. And again, Matt, thank you very much.
You're welcome. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.
Okay, I'm going to put Sara and Michele on now. Okay, Sam, so I can hear you guys. Can't see you, I can hear you.
Can you see us?
Not yet. Are you sharing your webcam too?
Hold on.
There you go.
Yay. Hi. Can you see and hear us all?
Yes. Sounds great. Okay, great.
All right. Tonight we're just going to share a little bit about what we've been doing with our class and what our plans are. So first of all, here we are. We built this weather station just recently with our Biology 2 class in front of our school. So we're pretty proud of that. The kids basically built this all by themselves, and so we have a place that is established so we can collect our atmospheric data. So this is our students that we're working with. They're Biology 2 students. They are juniors and seniors. It's an elective course, and basically our GLOBE project is our class so far. We've been in school about 7 weeks, and we've been working really hard, trying to organize our weather station, get them started on their project. And so these are our kiddos. So we started the entire class, starting with atmosphere protocols. We looked at cloud cover here. They go outside almost daily to collect our atmospheric data. And here we are posing for a picture, looking for clouds. So we need to practice our hydrology protocols as well. So we're looking at nitrates, alkalinity, turbidity, pH, and temperature. So we spent a lot of time practicing in class.
Yeah, we brought in sampling water and then just kind of gave them the kits and said, here, I give the protocols, try to figure it out, play with it, see how it works, and the big thing with it was the titrations and figuring those out.
We have this little guy back here is my son. Okay. We have a little place out back where we're trying to develop a land lab. So we go back there to collect our green down data. The kids really got into this. They got to go outside. At first they weren't too sure about it, but once we got them started, we started noticing some differences. And they get really excited to go outside.
We tried collecting about like once a week, about every Friday or so. And last week was kind of it for us. I think everyone's leaves have dropped now, so.
So here we are creating our weather station. The boys were a little worried about digging our hole, but they managed. And so we were able to collect. We have a nice little place. Our principal's pretty worried about somebody coming and tearing it down, but so far so good. The kids are pretty proud of it.
This is the land lab we were talking about where we've gone down to do our green lab, or our green down data. Again, this is an area at the back of our land that has a small wooded area. We're currently working on getting a few grants in to develop it and getting some vernal pools going. Eventually, we'd like to create a separate weather station there as well. It's accessible to the entire district, K-12, so it's got a lot of opportunities for it, and just a great place to take the kids out and get them outside for a while.
And as you can see back here is our school, and this is a cornfield that leads up to it, and we have a little waterway that the kids can walk through to get there. Jen asked how we started into our green down. We just sent them outside one day, told them to find a tree, identify the tree, mark the tree, and start collecting data. We had 3 or 4 different groups, so each of them can have a different tree to start looking at. Today was a very exciting day. Our project, we want to look at hydrology data. So really close to us, we have a dam that's ran by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. It's called Deer Creek Dam, and it was built in the 60s. So we took the students there today because we're looking at all sorts of different streams that feed into the water that eventually ends up at this dam. So we were able to take a trip to the dam, to go inside the dam and learn everything about how it works. It was a really cold day, but the kids learned a lot, and it was really exciting. I was pretty excited to go in there. I've never been inside a dam before. It's nothing compared to Hoover Dam, but it's still pretty interesting for us and the kids.
And then, again, just kind of a lot, like she said, a lot of our creeks are feeding into this, so they collect data as well. So we're hoping to be able to use their climate data and the information that they've been able to collect over the years and incorporate it into the students' research with their projects.
Because I think they collect nitrates, dissolved oxygen, and temperature throughout the dam. So we want to rely on them for some extensive data, and they also collect atmospheric data there as well. So they're kind of one of our resources in our project.
And then this afternoon we went to an area called the Gwen Conservation Area Center that is funded through the Ohio State University. Go Bucks. And we actually got them out there with a representative from the Soil and Water Conservation, and she took them out into the creeks with hip waders, and they practiced kick seining and realized how long 3 minutes can be when you're kicking up dirt and rocks and trying to get the invertebrates out. And so they brought them back and worked on identifying their invertebrates and understanding what type of invertebrates you find depends on the quality of the water, which again will help tie into real-life application for their projects.
So our entire project we're trying to work with, the students kind of came with us on their own because we threw maps at them and we want them to look at where they live and where they're close to. So they all found out that there's a bunch of little streams that run through our county that they live close to. So they wanted to see how all these connecting streams may affect one or another. We also have a lot of agriculture, so at first they were blaming one of our larger dairy farmers that he was at fault for putting nitrates in our water and things like that. So we question them. We say, well, really, is he part of the problem or not? So their question, they want to look at all these different streams they live close to and see how they affect each other, if they do or if they don't. One of the bigger things that we've kind of led to that leads to atmosphere and climate is that a few of our streams the kids picked were dry because of our drought. So that led us into another country questions about how could drought affect our water quality. Is it going to be different in the spring when it starts raining? Is it going to be different when the farmers start spraying things in our fields? And to look at those things and how they relate to each other.
So this is just a map of our collection sites. There's two separate groups kind of going on. The one on the right shows at the top is Madison Lake, which is a state park, and it runs down highlighted into yellow into Deer Creek, which is where we were at today in the dam. And then the red areas are highlighting where the students are collecting and how they all contribute into. So we have 18 students, and I believe 14 of them will be collecting different waters that are all going to be feeding into the sites on the right. And then on the left, we have a separate section, which is going Paint Creek, I believe, yes. Which again are all going to tie into, and they actually end into Washington Courthouse, where I live. And so I've offered to help collect some data from there as well. Coincidentally enough, both of these streams feed into the Scioto River, which feeds into the Ohio River, which eventually leads into the Mississippi River. So there's a lot of opportunities for us to look at other data that has been collected at different locations and see, again, is there any connecting factors in the data that's collected.
So we posed our questions to our kids as to height, why, how, and what. So why are we doing this? We want to collect data to compare and contrast our streams in our county. How was to follow our GLOBE protocols, and what we're going to collect our data and analyze this and try to look for connections and patterns. And we want our students to try to get out once a month to collect their water samples so that we can analyze it that way.
So again, these are just the things they're going to be analyzing. We've encouraged them, like she said, to collect once a month, and then they've divided into separate groups. So if we have a group for pH, a group for temperature and transparency, a group doing dissolved oxygen, one doing nitrates, another one alkalinity and invertebrates. And so they'll be taking, for example, dissolved oxygen. They'll take the data from everyone's collection, and they're going to be focusing on analyzing just the dissolved oxygen portion to kind of minimize the overwhelming of all the things they're collecting. So kind of real life science, if you would say, and kind of how you would do it in college to kind of give them a good idea of how to organize data and interpret it and what these numbers are going to mean.
So here we are in front with our OHIO. And our biggest thing, I think, with our kids is just getting them to analyze our data, to look at data. And here's another little guy. You're on and have them to look at their data and to, that's the biggest thing, is getting them to understand what data is and how to collect it and what it means if you have incomplete data. Because when they talk to each other, they start getting angry at each other because they didn't put their date on there, or they're missing parts, or they don't have units. So they're really understanding what it is to collect data and to be scientists, and how much data you have to collect so you can actually learn something to figure things out. I think it's the biggest thing that our kids are going to get from all this stuff that they're working on. Do you have any other questions?
Thanks, Sarah. We kind of thought so too, because like I said, when we go through and did you collect this? Have you done this? And we kind of gave them a checklist, and they were just like, oh my gosh, I don't even know where to begin. So by breaking them into groups, there's 3 students per group. So it'll be enough time to get them to research and find them out and interpret it. So
our class periods are only 45 minutes long. So this is why we've been in school for 7 weeks. And the only thing we've gotten done is how to do our protocols, and that we've actually established some sites. So it actually seems that we're working a lot and getting nowhere, actually. Because we sat down like, oh my gosh, maybe we should start lecturing and talking about other things, but we're not getting anything else done. But like I said, it's an elective class, and we can pretty much gear it to how we want it to work. And we're trying to take it more on that this is our project, and this is what we're going to work on daily. And then at the end, we're going to try to have them develop a thesis type presentation is our whole entire idea, the whole entire project.
Our dissolved oxygen and nitrates levels, we're not really sure yet. Again, they've only collected for the month of September, and not all of them were able to get out. And like Michele said, some of them also, their streams were dried from the drought. So that answer, I can't talk today. That question we're not sure of just yet.
To get to our streams to collect the data, that's on the kids. So they go over on the weekends, like I said, once a month to collect their data, and they have all their data. This nitrate so far, we didn't have everything to get our dissolved oxygen yet, so hopefully in October we can do that. But we rely a lot on them, so on their own time.
We've made up little kits that have the dissolved oxygen chemicals in order to set their water samples, along with bags to send out that have the pH strips and the thermometers. So it's their responsibility to sign it out. Again, we're dealing with juniors and seniors, so that was part of the deal of them being in the course, was taking the responsibility to go out and do their own collection. So it's really a student-driven project.
And we're starting to get a lot of buy-in because we have one student that's really worried about his leaf pack sitting in the stream collecting his macroinvertebrates. He doesn't think we've thought through it enough. He's really worried that somebody's going to come steal his leaf pack. He asks me about it every day. So they're starting to love it. The closest coal mines, they're towards the east and southeast of us. So we're kind of like right in the middle towards the western side of Ohio. So coal mines aren't that close to us. The closest things probably to us would be natural gas wells, and that's still a county over. Yeah. So not a whole lot of coal mines.
Our main influences are just going to be, there's a small town above, to the north and south of the two connecting streams, and then agricultural. So that's going to be our biggest difference there. We're not sure about accepting the leaf packs yet, but again, it's just kind of more interesting data. So whether or not we'll officially be able to upload it to Globe, at least we'll still have some interesting information to add to it if we continue the project on next year.
And then once again, how we have it set up, it's the easiest way for us to get the macroinvertebrates because they are in so many different locations. It's something the kids can do by themselves, go set it out there and then go back later and pick it up and bring it in. At least we get a chance to look at them and relate that to water quality. I think is the most important thing we're trying to do right
now. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so let's turn it over. I'm going to do a little wrap up here. Diana, I hope to answer that by the end of the week. As of right now, we're still having issues with the data entry for them, but I am putting pressure on our tech manager and should know very soon. Okay, so our next webinar will be in 2 weeks, October 24th at 6:30 p.m. Mountain Time. We have a different setup next week. I convinced Marcy to do a data entry overview. I know a few teachers had questions about entering data, so I thought that would be a really easier one to do. No, I don't know about that, Chris. I know that, Bob said to check this. Okay. And I know that for low-cost symptometers, we have really two options and trying to figure out the calibration method for the ones from France. So it's been a hair-pulling out ordeal to get this to be addressed, but hopefully soon we'll have an answer on it. I didn't change teacher presenter. So, okay, next week, Sarah and Michele are not going again. I'm not going to make them do that twice. Next week will be, let's see, it's Anne, Marcy, and June next week, or next time. So again, our webinar overview for data entry will be Marcy Burns, and then teacher presenters will be Anne, Marcy, and June. And that is it for tonight. I'm going to stick around for a little bit for questions, and thank you all so much for coming. And if anybody here is logged on with like sharing a computer, can let me know that too for attendance purposes. But otherwise, I will talk to you all soon. Sarah and Michele can go again. Thanks, everybody. Good night.